Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, my dear learners, with a new grammar lesson that's very, very important for many students. Many students suffer from changing sentences from active into passive, and they may have some difficulties reading and changing sentences from active into passive voice. So our lesson today is very important for you all and is very easy, inshallah. Okay, so let's go. Passive voice. The active and passive voice. We can ask ourselves, when can we use the active voice and when can we use the passive voice? We usually use the active voice in writing and speaking. So we usually use the active voice in writing and speaking. For example, let's have a look together at this example. The girl, this is someone or something, the agent, we call it the agent or the doer of the action. The girl kicked, the girl kicked, this is the action or the verb. Kicked what? The ball. The girl kicked the ball. Here we can say that the girl, this is the subject or the agent, and the kicked is the verb in the past simple tense. This is the action, and the object here is the ball. This is an active voice. This is active. We know the subject and what did the subject do, kicked, and we know the object, or there is an object. This is active voice. We can use this style of writing or this kind of sentences in writing and speaking and so on. Okay, but now let's have the difference between active and passive. In the passive voice, we change this around so that the recipient has something done it by the agent. Let's have that example. For example, we can begin with the object, the ball. This is the recipient or the object in the active sentence. The ball was kicked. The ball was kicked. So was kicked, it is has something done to it. Has something done to it. So the ball was kicked by the girl. Here is the form of the sentence in the passive form. The ball was kicked by the girl. So the ball here, this is the recipient, and was kicked. Here it has something done to it. This is the verb, and by the girl here is the agent. So we say by the girl. Okay, let's have another example. The teacher explained the lesson. The teacher explained the lesson. Okay, the teacher, this is the agent or the subject or the doer of the action or someone who did the action. Explained, this is the verb in the past simple tense. This is the action or the verb, or what is the action or the verb done. And the lesson, this is the object or the recipient. If we want to change this sentence from active into passive, what should we do? Let's check. We begin with the recipient like this. The lesson, this is the recipient. We begin with the recipient or the object. The lesson was explained. Was because the sentence is in the past simple. So we put the past simple of verb to be was. So the lesson was explained by the agent or by someone or by the teacher, by someone or something. This is the agent. So we begin with the recipient and then the verb after verb to be in its tense, and then the doer of the action or the agent. Okay, this is another example. Now let's have this list of sentences and let's decide which one of them is active and which one is passive. This is just to differentiate between active and passive, to know the difference between an active sentence and a passive one. Okay, so let's differentiate between both of them. The first sentence, let's read it aloud. The music was played by the DJ. The music was played by the DJ. Is this an active sentence or a passive one? It is passive. because there is the recipient, the music, then the verb in the passive form, then by plus the agent. So this is a passive sentence. Now the second sentence, the sun was hidden by the clouds. The sun, this is the recipient, was hidden, the verb in the passive form, by the clouds. So this is a passive sentence. Now let's check another example. They played football in the playground. They, this is the subject, not the recipient of the action. This is the subject, then the verb, then the object of the recipient. So this is an active sentence. Look at the difference between the first two sentences and the third one. Here we have the subject, the agent who did the action, they, then the verb played in the past simple tense, then the object or the recipient, football. So this is the order of an active sentence. So this is an active one. Another example, Mary wrote the letter to the manager. Mary, the subject, wrote the verb, the letter, the object or the recipient. It's the normal order of an active sentence. Now let's check the other sentence. Dahlia was thanked by the teacher. Dahlia was thanked by the teacher. Who thanked? The teacher. So the teacher is the agent. It comes at the end. Thanked who? Dahlia. So Dahlia is the recipient of thanking. So we began with the recipient, then the verb, then by plus the agent. So this is for sure the order of the passive form. Okay. Now we have learned together how to differentiate or to know the differences between an active sentence and a passive one. Okay. Now let's have more examples. But take care. The passive sentences, sometimes in the passive sentences, the agent is left out. We can delete the agent, no need for it. For example, let's have this example. The work was done by the rain. The homework was done by the student, sorry. The homework was done by the student. I can remove this. Here the agent is the student. The student here as the agent is left out. Okay, we kept it. The homework was done. We can say the homework was done without saying by the student, because it may be known logically or no need to mention it. Okay, now let's go to another thing about the passive voice. The passive is generally found in more formal kinds of text, such as reports, forms, evaluations, etc. So if you want to use the passive form, we use the passive form in more formal kinds of texts, more formal kinds of texts. Okay, for academic research, for example, in reports, in evaluations, in forms, and so on. Let's have an example. We can have this example. A small amount of water was added to the beaker. This is the beaker in science. A small amount of water was added to the beaker. Why? The mixture was heated using a Bunsen burner. Okay, so this is an example for a sentence in the passive in a formal style. Okay, now let's talk about another example. Look here. This is an active sentence. Here in the active, you know, subjects perform an act. Subjects perform an act. This is an active sentence. We chose the past simple of the verb choose. We chose plastic film to cover the microphone. We, this is the subject, okay? The subject who performed the action. The verb is chose, verb in the past simple. Chose what? Plastic film to cover the microphone. This is the object. So this is a typical active voice or a typical active sentence. If we want to change it into passive, what should we do? Look here. We begin with the recipient or the plastic film. This is the recipient or the object. We begin with it, plastic film. Now the object in the active sentence, plastic film, became a subject in the passive voice. And we began with it, plastic film, sorry. Then we put verb to be in the past simple because the sentence is in the past simple. So we put verb to be in the past simple. It was, plastic film was, and the past participle of the verb choose, that is chosen. So plastic film was chosen to cover the microphone This is the object or the complement of the sentence. So now we learned how to change from active to passive. Okay, let's take this example and to know who is the third person and active voice and so on. طبعا here the team chose plastic film to cover the microphone. Here the team, this is the subject, chose, this is the verb, plastic film to cover the microphone, this is the object. We begin with the object to become a subject. Plastic film was chosen to cover the microphone. Okay, let's have more examples. Okay, here we can see this example. Inactive workers installed burglar alarms. You know burglar alarms? Workers installed burglar alarms. Workers, this is the subject, installed, a verb in the past simple. Burglar alarms, this is the object. If we want to change it into passive, what should we do? We can do the following. We begin with the object, burglar alarms. The sentence in the active form is in the past simple, so we use was or were. Burglar alarms were. Then the past participle of the verb installed, it is the same, installed. So burglar alarms were installed by the workers. Here we kept the agent. And also we can delete the agent and say burglar alarms were installed, full stop, without by the workers. So it's up to you. You can keep the agent or you can delete the agent after by. Okay, so this is another example. Let's take more examples. Here in the active voice, we have this sentence, I finish a project in 8 hours. I, this is the subject, finish the verb. In which tense? Yes, present simple. I finish a project. A project, this is the object, in 8 hours. If you want to change this sentence into passive, we should begin with the object or the recipient. The object or recipient is a project. The sentence is in present simple, so we use verb to be the present simple. That is. A project is. Then the past participle of the verb finish, that is finished. So a project is finished in 8 hours. This is an example. Another example, I finish 3 projects in 8 hours. I finish 3 projects in 8 hours. Also an active sentence in the present simple, and we have the object here, 3 projects. So we begin with the 3 projects. This is the object. Are, because 3 projects is in plural form, so we use are at present. 3 projects are finished. So 3 projects are finished in 8 hours. Okay, what about the past? If this sentence is in the past, we can say I finished a project in 8 hours. Finished, past simple. So what should we do? We should begin with the object, a project, and we use verb to be in the past simple. So a project was finished in 8 hours. And now the last one, I finished 3 projects in 8 hours. So we can change it like this. 3 projects were finished in 3 hours. Okay, 3 projects were finished in 8 hours. Okay, these are more examples to learn how to change from active into passive. Now, my dear learners, let's have a look at this type of passive that is called personal and impersonal. Personal passive and impersonal passive. You know personal and impersonal. Let's begin with impersonal passive. For this passive, we need to have 2 sentences joined by that. In impersonal passive, we need to have 2 sentences joined by that, the linker that. The first sentence needs a mental verb, like say, think, believe, understand, consider, okay, propose. So the first sentence needs a verb of these, say, think, believe, understand, consider, and so on. Let's have a look. People think that she is very pretty. People think, we can say people say, people believe, okay? People consider, people pretend. All these verbs can be used in impersonal passive like this. People think that she is very pretty. Here we have 2 sentences. The first sentence, people think. And the second sentence, or S2, sentence 2, she is very pretty. And these two sentences are linked with that. How can we change it into passive? We call it impersonal passive. Impersonal passive. How can we change it? Look here. We can change it like this. We begin with impersonal subject, it. We begin with it. Impersonal subject, it is. Why is? Because the sentence is in the present simple. People think that she is very pretty in the present simple. So we say it is. And then we put the verb think in the past participle, thought. So it will be, it is thought that. Then we complete the sentence. It is thought that she is very pretty. Okay, this is the impersonal passive voice. Okay, so we delete people and put it as impersonal subject instead. More examples. Look at these examples. Mary believed that I was American. Mary believed. So it is in the past simple. So we should say it is believed or it was believed. Yes, it was believed that I was American. People have understood that he is silly. Have understood, present perfect. So we use it, it has been understood. Not it was understood. No, it has been understood that he is silly. They say that we are a couple. They say, the verb is say in present simple. So we say, it is said that we are a couple. Is it clear? Is it understandable? Okay, very nice. Now, here we don't use the agent. No need to use the agent in impersonal passive. Now we have finished impersonal passive. Let's go now to personal passive. Personal passive voice means that you begin your passive sentence with a personal pronoun. To begin your sentence with a personal pronoun. Look at this sentence. People think that Mary knows French. People think or believe or say that Mary knows French. Now the verb is think. That's nice. And the person we are talking about is Mary. Nice. And the verb of the sentence is knows. The main verb knows. This is a verb in the present simple. But now we know the verb think. We are talking about Mary. And the sentence here has a verb in the present simple. How can we change it into personal passive? If you want to change it into personal passive, you begin with the person. Who is the person here? Mary. Mary, this is subject to. We begin with it. We begin with Mary. اللي هو subject to. Then we begin with verb 1. But in the passive form, think should be is thought. يبقى is thought. Then after that, verb 1, we put to plus the verb to plus the verb to or verb to in the infinitive form. So it will be Mary is thought to know, not to knows, because to is followed by infinitive. Mary is thought to know French. Mary is thought to know French. Okay, this is an example for personal passive. Okay, here also we don't use the agent. Okay, let's have more examples. Mary believed that I was American. So we begin with I. I was believed to have been American. People have understood that he is silly. He has been understood to be silly. They say that we are a couple. It will be we are said to be a couple. We think you won't arrive on time. We think you. So this is the object, the second subject, you. So we begin with it. You are, because we use it in present simple, are thought. Not, because it is in the negative form, not want. We are not, you are not thought, you are thought not to arrive on time. Okay, so this is the personal and impersonal passive forms. Is it clear? Okay, now also we don't use the agents here. Thank you very much, my dear learners. I'm really thankful to you, and I'm really happy to be with you in this part of the class. Thank you very much, and see you next time, inshallah. Thank you. If you have any questions or inquiries, you can write in the description box, and I'm ready, or the comments box, and I'm ready for any of your questions. Thank you very much, my dear learners. and see you next time with another lesson. Thank you.